Good evening. Welcome to Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of news and current affairs here in Mongolia, with our commentator, economist, and columnist, Mr. Gerald Defacto.
Good evening.
And I'm Anand Tumurtaga. You can watch us live on Facebook on MMB World, and you can join in the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag Gerald_Defacto. Today in our program, it was reported that the Mongolian economy grew substantially last year, but the Mongolians are spending more than they earn. The Development Bank of Mongolia was designed to fund the state programs and has been in operation for 8 years. Has the bank been doing what it intended to do? For years, herders and agriculture enterprises have complained they have been wasting most of their byproducts. 70% of our export meat becomes waste. Now, has their prayers been answered, or is it? So, on to our first topic. The National Statistics Office released a report on the fourth quarter of the 2018 GDP and the socioeconomic situation in Mongolia. So the office reported in 2018 the economy grew by 6.9%, but inflation did not decrease. It reached 8.1%. How does these numbers affect regular Mongolians?
Well, economy was growing 6.9%, but inflation 8.1%, like a year before, a little bit over even. How do they connected? How these two indexes are connected? Not directly, but in a certain way, not straight 100% directly, but in a certain way. Why? Because inflation in Mongolia is measured by a bunch of products, of food, of the product for your daily life you use. In the Mongolian, this basket of products is consisting of 329 products, and which are grouped into 12 groups. And depending on the weight of the groups, it has a different role in change of inflation. The largest one is products, food and non-alcoholic drinks. It's 30% of that basket. The next largest one is utilities, and you pay for rent apartments, right? And 14%. Then the third is clothes, boots, 12.2%, and the another largest, the number 4 group is public transports. 12.6%. The remaining eight groups are not that substantial, but however, it is included into this basket. So if these 4 categories prices are increased, and out of this only this the food and non-alcohol drinks, there are also consisting of several other certain lists, but more or less we have seen a change, increase of price, later on a little bit down after Tsagansar. In particular, the price of meat a little bit increased up and then went down. So overall, this economy growth was also kind of neglected by this inflation, which is higher than the economic growth. That's you can say. Overall, when the economy is working well, is the Western democracies about 3.2 to 3% a year annual growth is regard good one. And it's regard good one because the inflation is under 2% or so. So if inflation goes above 2%, it's already a concern. But in the normal economy, inflation is a way of correcting a lot of market failures. A lot, they kind of, because people consume now, creating more, the productivity of the society have increasing. So following that, inflation has this tendency.
Can you expand on that? So in 2018, the monetary income for average households was 1 million turks, but their expenditure was 1.1 million turks per month. Why is there a gap? Why is our expenditure more than our incomes? Can you expand on that?
good thing is Mongolian National Statistics Committee nowadays producing a good quality statistics with very
Can you give
clear
graph 4?
yeah, good graphs and good materials, and that's why they are estimating this family expenses per month. And as you said, we have 1.1 average family spends $1 million a month, then they earn only 1 million. I think it could be explained by the following facts: that credit volume, credit balance of the country keep increasing, 27% or so compared with the last year increase. But at the household level, more Mongolians are borrowing money. That 100,000 are mostly money that they have not yet earned. They have borrowed, and that's why they meet the ends, you know. And that's why the Central Bank of Mongolia had issued a warning and had issued new rules that the family expenses for loan should not be more than 70% of their family income for that month. If it is over 70%, that family more fragile to poverty. So that's the reason why we have this change. The other thing interesting was from the statistics, 8.3% of Mongolian households have a money 300,000 tugriks, lower money than the 300,000 tugriks, 8.5%. 20% earns 1.1 to 1.6 million tugriks a month. But the largest bracket of income people, I mean, they are regarding it over 2.1 million. Earnings people is 9% only. So it's less than $1,000. But however, in between this, there are almost, total almost 40% on these brackets, but 60% of the people are earning from 1.6 to 2.1 million. So that's in a way indexes of middle class income of the country. The other thing was there's a minimum income level under which you regard the people with those income under regarded as a poor. And that level is 187,000, or according to the recent ratio or courses of dollar, it's 72 US dollar. And but the average income is 119 US dollar, which is 65% higher than that poverty threshold. What does it mean? World Bank says that per person, if income is less than $2 a day, that person is regarded as a poor. And $72 is about 2.6 a day divided by 30 days, and then it shows the same level almost of the poverty level of the World Bank. So this is something that we should have always in mind. According to the last statistics, about 30% of Mongolians living under that threshold, this poverty line. So it means that we have a lot to do to improve the living standard of Mongolians.
So what stood out to you in the 2018 quarter of the GDP results, though?
If you take the GDP as a final product consumption, there is two methods. One is about production, the other is the consuming, the final products, how the society had consumed. According to that second pattern, Mongolian private consumption, government purchase, and investment, plus the difference between export and import, which is called also net export. There is one good sign in this statistics. What I found out was if you compare 2018 with 2017, the private consumption, we used to have half of the national, the gross domestic product, half of them we were using household using, consuming, before in 2017. Then these statistics show that that consumption decreased by 2%. In 2018, it's 48%. Then investment. It was 34% of GDP, and now it's 43%, which is great news. Now, kind of compared a year before, we now more investing, more accumulating the wealth in the form of saving, in the form of investment, which is good news. The other good news was government purchase was 13% of GDP a year before. Now, 11%. Why? There's I have been, what was the reason behind this government purchase decrease at the time when the first time for recent almost 10 years or more than 10 years, first time Mongolian state budget came with surplus, not deficit.
Yes, yes.
So you know why they have Mongolian state?
Because of the mining.
Not only mining we have exported more than ever before coke and coal, 32 million. But it turned out the state collected more taxes. Very interesting statistics. For example, our VAT tax for just last year alone have increased 35%. Can you imagine? 34, 1/3. But the excise tax, 45%. Then the customs tax, 33%. Now question, how come the country have collected so much taxes?
Yes.
The easiest and the most evident example is this so-called VAT tax document.
You mean the lottery system, right?
They call it e-Bayram, e-document. Yeah. Now every Mongolian goes wherever they buy, they ask, give me my e-Bayram, e-document. Yeah. And they give it. Yes. If they don't give it, they don't come again. Yes. Because what happened was, by collecting all my purchase receipts, I can go and last year, which many people did, and they were giving me a certain percent back, which economically has no logic. But you know, that's VAT is for. VAT tax increase means we have now less gray economy rather than normal
which is
economy.
Good news then.
That's fantastic news, so that more people now start to pay taxes. Because when the gray economy is larger than the real economy, it's a problem, because half of them, just people who has a business, pay taxes, half not. But when it comes social insurance, other things, everybody is taken the same way. So it was very unjust system. Now it is getting better. But however, I'm not very much optimistic when the government keep increasing taxes. What does it mean? If I have a private company, instead of extending with the capital I made or money, profit I made from my company, I would like rather to extend my business than paying a tax to the government. So this is really two-ended questions, not very the best news. However, that's made the economy better into this bracket of 6.9%, and that's the composition.
Well, moving on to our second topic.
Okay, let's go.
Yes, okay. I would move on to second that there was a slight technical error, so I apologize for that. The government of Mongolia made a plan to establish the Development Bank of Mongolia on July 20th in 2010. Subsequently, the Mongolian parliament passed a law on the Development Bank of Mongolia on the 10th of February in 2011 and approved the Development Bank of Mongolia will be a dedicated, profit-oriented, state-owned legally entity to carry out activities aimed at financing the major development projects and programs of Mongolia. And the Development Bank was officially opened in May 12, 2011. So the bank has been in operation for 8 years now. As an economist, has the bank been able to achieve the goals that it set forth within this time?
Well, unfortunately, there's nothing much, uh, well, nothing much to say a lot about good things about the bank now, because according to the newly appointed cabinet chancellor, Mr. Oyung Irdin, 85% of the loan of this bank is not sustainable and not reliable or bad quality. That's very bad news. But however, next day, the CEO of this development bank, I have seen him speaking on TV, said that no, our bad loan is within 1 digit. So how big difference? 9%, 85%. We want to know more, and we want to know exact figure. But it depends on which side, which point of view they have seen. So for example, it was originally created kind of state investment projects go through this bank. They can raise a cheaper bond on the international market, which they did. But also, it was also that time, 2012, Democratic Party government had issued bonds. 1.5 so-called Genghis Khan bonds were raised. And they didn't know what to do with the money for whole 1 year. And at the time, we were paying interest rate on that. So
Yes.
how you can understand how smart were the people, to spend just for so much interest rate just for keeping that money inside of the country. Unfortunately.
And I think that most of the expenditure went to a lot of foreign companies who said, we will help you out, but they did.
Yeah, there is a lump sum large paid to the consulting companies.
Yes.
Huge amount of money. Otherwise, you will be surprised to pay. I even just recently discovered that for Genghis bond, the fee was 2 times paid. One is by the government, around $5 million US. The other one is again 5 million from the other institute in Mongolia, Development Bank, I understand. And this is it's a lot. Now it's being investigated. So they will tell us how much they have been paying, if there was a waste, if there was a conflict of interest. They were all around conflict of interests. Because, for example, government was saying that we guarantee you the repayment of this loan. Now give that loan to this and this and that. They have been issuing number of guarantee to the certain projects. And when time comes, they don't pay, then the government is not paying as well. So as a result, then the government keep changing in Mongolia every 1.5 year, new government. They were not paying back the project's financing guarantee. As a result, the balance sheet of the bank was coming down. Good example, for example, say I just recently got a new information, for example, there is a so-called State Mortgage Corporation who got 230 billion tugriks from this development bank, and they never paid back up to now. And instead they said no, because this was government guarantee. But the government guarantee was not reflected into the budget. So there is no money in the budget for payment of this money.
So where does the money go, though?
No, the money went for construction of houses. They say cheaper, which I don't believe. And they have been renting even some of the houses. It is nearby airport, new district, new houses. Not fully sold because they have been, many of them, because they were not paying, the development bank have stopped issuing the continuation of paying giving the loan. As a result, now there are the unfinished projects. A lot of money is inside, but not finished. You cannot sell it. So this is the one example. The other one is Irtnis Mongol, that so-called strategic deposits, 15 or so companies, father company, Irtnis Mongol. Somehow, in spite of Irtnis Tavan Tolga, which is under that company, they have purchased 170 billion tugrik road paved by private company from TT to the border. And now they are not paying. Though Irtnis Mongolia is not the correct owner. in this town Talga would be better. And they say that now they will transfer the asset, the road, to the balance sheet of the Tavan Talga, which they are not doing somehow. They are saying every day they will do it, but they don't know. But as a result, 170 billion tugrik is kind of default money on the balance sheet of this bank, et cetera, et cetera. And even there is interesting another case. Ministry of Defense borrowed 30 million US dollar from the bank for the equipment that is good for hard conditions where there is no infrastructure. That facilities they can put the road for temporary use, and you go, and they said, oh, the budget will pay, and yeah, it is not there in the budget of the Ministry of Defense.
Yes, you actually talked about this bank in 2016 in your article called "Cashier for Politicians," and in that you wrote that the bank is a legitimate de jure of the development bank is the government of Mongolia. Therefore, the repayment of the bank's loan, only 7% has been repaid today, while 70% of the loans was issued or non-performing, which is coming out of the state budget, and they're selling the debt with the taxpayer money. And has that changed? Has that changed in your perspective now?
Substantially not. This development bank keeps staying as a cashier for politicians.
So should we close it though? Then?
I wish we wish, because with it is so many losses, big assets, bad assets, you cannot close down, because you need to recollect back either the loan or the collaterals. What happened was, say, I borrow money from you, but I don't pay the money I borrowed from you. The state pays from me to you. So what I'm supposed to do? Go into Spain, because I'm not responsible for paying. So what does the system is called? It's called cashier. So they keep staying there. You know, what happened was, the end of 2016, that time Minister of Finance, Chojul Sure, had written off certain guaranteed money assets from the bank balance sheet. They said, oh, we were supposed to pay you this, and you were supposed to pay this. So this is without payment, it's very irresponsible actions. And now the question is, who will be responsible on our behalf, taxpayers' behalf, to get the projects done, finished, the loan is paid, which does not work today.
I think that's a very huge issue. What will happen if the loans default though? Like, if they say like we can't pay back this money at all, we can't finish this project?
Well, because the government was giving guarantee, as this minister did 2 years ago, they are just writing off the bad loans, and then it's not clear who will be run after that bad loan. And those people who had borrowed, and they should be paying back, which is not the case. Yet they have trimmed the balance sheet. Now it's only 3.5 billion tugrik, 3.6 billion. It was a 4 something. So in that way, in a responsible manner, the government, so-called government, which is keep changing all the time, are writing off debts which we pay anyway. Mongolia is paying foreign debt on time. We could not we had a difficult time to pay foreign, either samurai bond that time. And we had borrowed from IMF money, and we paid. And the other case was we have borrowed again, but with higher interest rate, with longer term, and we paid debt with debt, bigger, larger, and expensive debt. And yet the politicians say that we have paid the debt. It's so easy to pay debt with debt. So, and yet they are presenting it as their own some special work. And that's really irresponsible manner.
Yes. And well, speaking about loans and giving out more projects, the development, moving on to our next topic, actually it connects with our second topic. The Development Bank of Mongolia actually gave loans to a plant, the big plant for processing bones, proteins. Protein processing plant for raw materials opened in Imelt this week. And however, there's a risk of giving the byproducts of the livestock, of the animals, like making like cow meals and making them into feeds for the livestock. The risk of spreading numerous diseases like mad cow disease. And your thoughts on this new plant?
Okay, first the lawn part of it.
Yes.
Turned out they borrowed 20.5 billion Tugriks. 16 billion is from the development bank.
Yes.
From themselves, I mean their own money. With this 20 billion, they have created with Italian technology the processing plant of waste bones.
Yes.
Because we were wasting a lot bones.
Yes.
And yet we are buying a lot protein by import because the farms, chicken farms, they need, or pork farms, they need. And now what happens is, it turned out this company is rather serious. The people made a very long-term good research. Now they know the market. And now they got the international certificate for their products.
So everything should be good then?
That's on the one side good.
Yes.
But on the other side, with what you said about the mad cow disease,
yeah.
Well, it happened in the 80s because the argument that time was you are feeding with the cows with their own bones.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But it turned out that it is not exactly quite the same way. It turned out it's really clear processed organic product. It's a food supplement kind of for animals, feed supplements. And it was not the cause of that mad cow disease. It was kind of transmitter of the bacteria because that time this product was not kept according to the technology. Because it's organic product, it is to be for production and storage. It should strictly follow the rules and technology.
So they didn't do that, basically?
They did not do it. And so it is great hope that the company will follow their technological procedure. And then we will be replacing, we will be replacing a quite substantial number of import of protein, which is, in general, this kind of protein is good for agriculture.
Yes. Because
it's rich of a lot phosphor and calcium, so altogether makes the harvest better. So hopefully Mongolia will be using to that directions more in any way than as a protein to food supplement to the animals. So
this is a very good news. Then our agricultural businesses will grow then, basically, right?
At least one of the project one of the loans of this development bank is working well, and I know a couple other loans. I mean, I don't think all these loans are so bad, but however, where the politicians are too much connected, the loans are better. Why? Because they are not carrying responsibility with that.
So maybe then, at that note, our exports can maybe expand to not only just to mining and maybe to agriculture now.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching Defacto Review. We'll see you next week on MMB World.
Yeah, you can also rewatch our program on Facebook and also on our website, jargaldefacto.com. Thank you very much for spending this time with us tonight.
Thank you.
One is the fund of future.